How do you think he and Mike Tomlin will coexist? Because that's two big egos, and I don't know where you come down on this. No one can convince me that Robert Saleh did not lose his job because Aaron Rodgers wanted him to lose his job, or was at least one of the people who did not want to have Robert Saleh as the head coach anymore. Mike Tomlin is not Robert Saleh in terms of his standing in the NFL, not close to it, obviously. How do you think that will actually work with those two as far as getting along and playing nice together?
Hey, you make a great point. After Saleh was fired, Rodgers was never really asked any tough questions about it by the rough and tumble New York media, and they got mad at me for pointing it out. It's like, use some of that on him. That's good. Get mad. Ask him pointed questions. What did he know? When did he know it? Why aren't you saying, I'm upset that my coach is gone? It's going to derail our season. How do we come back from this? So I agree with you that there was something weird about it. I don't know that he wanted him out, but he sure didn't act like somebody who wanted him to stay. I think that Tomlin understands how to deal with Rodgers for at least 1 year, and I think Rodgers realizes things aren't looking good for him post-Packers. He needs, and there's like a mutual benefit that flows from this. Tomlin needs to get to the playoffs and win at least one game. Rodgers needs to finish his career with a team that gets to the playoffs. He hasn't been there since 2021. He hasn't been there since 2021. You can't walk off into the sunset. You're limping off into the sunset if you go 4, 5, 6 years without getting to the postseason to cap your career. So they need each other. That's why they're going to get along. They need each other at this point.
Do you think if they did do that, they got to a playoff appearance, wild card game, and they won it, and then who cares about, they get crushed in the next round, so what? Do you think that would be viewed by most people broadly, nationally, forget about Pittsburgh, as a successful year if they win a singular playoff game together?
Yes, unless they have like the 1 seed, or they're regarded as one of the top teams and they're favored in the divisional round game and they lose that. I think how you go out becomes important to what was expected when we get to January. So, if they do what they've been doing the past decade, fighting, scratching, clawing, getting to the playoffs, and win a wild card game. Hey, we did better with Aaron Rodgers than we've otherwise done. It doesn't put out the fire; it just delays it. But it would be relative to what we've seen since they beat the Chiefs on that Sunday game that was moved from afternoon to evening because of an ice storm, and sparked the Chiefs to say, enough.
We
got to
Patrick
go get
Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
That was the trigger game for multiple Super Bowl championships. But yeah, I think that if it's like what we've seen since that night, it is a success relative to recent performance.
Mike, Russell Wilson, obviously, with the Giants now, a deal that could pay him up to $21 million if he hits a bunch of incentives. Instantly the funniest quarterback room in the league, putting he and Jameis Winston together for those pregame speeches with Tommy Cutlets potentially in the background doing his usual gesticulations. Do you get the sense from people you've talked to that the Giants got sick of waiting for Rodgers, or that they found out that Rodgers really had no interest? Like, how did that go down where they just made the decision, all right, we're going to move on to Wilson? Was it entirely Rodgers told them thanks but no thanks, or they just got tired of playing the waiting game?
I think there was an urgency. I haven't heard this, but I think common sense suggests there was an urgency that was beginning to kick in, and they needed to do something. There was a desperation. Chris Sims, who does PFT Live with me, grew up a Giants fan. His dad is Phil Sims, and that's understandable. And we talk about it on our show, and he's like, yes, I'm very nervous. We have one guy under contract. It's Tommy DeVito. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're thinking about doing. And the Jameis Winston Friday, and then Russell Wilson on Tuesday, those two moves take some of the steam out of it. It does give them a chance to evaluate the quarterback class in the draft a little more objectively without bias, without rooting for, hey, we really need to like a quarterback with number 3 because we don't have any. But you're right, it creates a very intriguing quarterback room. And you've got one guy who has evolved to a point where he is notoriously authentic. He always is who he is. He says what he says, and he never pretends to be anybody other than who he is. And then you got the other guy who is never himself. It's always hidden. He's always playing the role of how an NFL quarterback should act. And I don't know that it ends well for Russell Wilson unless he plays better than he played last year. And I wrote this today at PFT. did the Giants just like not talk to the Steelers? Did they not pay attention to what happened last year?
I know.
Down the stretch, 5 straight losses, average margin of 13.2 points in those games. Did they not do any homework? I remember last year, Mike Tomlin was very proud of the fact that he didn't do any homework with the Broncos. Remember when he was asked that question? He was almost kind of upset that he was asked that question. Like, why didn't the Giants, these teams are connected, why didn't the Giants make a few phone calls? And if they did, why did they sign this guy?